Dogs. I have a dog that is the absolute worst guard dog in the history of dogs being man's best friend. Her name is Sadie, and she's a 60-pound American Staffordshire Terrier. Sadie is cream with fawn patches. She has an even temperament and loves all cats, rabbits, and humans. Even though her relationship with the cats is a little one-sided, imagine being a 6-pound cat and have a 60-pound dog running after you because she wants to play. I met Sadie one morning as my now ex-wife Felicia and I were getting ready to run errands for the day. I was leaning over, tying my shoe on the front porch when I saw Sadie across the street. Loose and without an owner. I finished my shoe and called to Felicia, "Honey, there's a dog loose. Be careful going out there," or something to that effect. However, as soon as I said the word dog, I immediately, at the time, regretted it. You see, there's something one needs to understand about Felicia. She has a big heart. She also loves animals. I cannot count the amount of times that I've come home to some new animal because she had found it on the side of the road and felt bad. Often I would get calls at work or while I was out running my own errands. She would start with, "Bruce, don't be mad, but when you get home." And I would know then and there that there would be some animal in my living room, happily wagging its tail with panting tongue hanging out. I would then have to explain why our little house that we were renting couldn't support 2 cats, 1 rabbit, 2 dogs, 5 fish, and a 20-gallon tank, and whatever other creature she decided to bring home. The explanation would end with a pouting wife, crossed arms, and a call to the local vet, pound, or animal control center. So as soon as I was informed that the dog was running loose on the street, she was already in full motion down the front steps trying to coax the dog closer. My worry set in as my biggest fear was watching my ex-wife getting mauled by some strange dog. For those of you that don't know, American Staffordshire Terriers are often mistaken for pit bull terriers. As such, they carry a reputation and are treated the same. Not Sadie. Sadie's the sweetest murder puppy you will ever meet. As soon as Sadie saw Felicia, she was in love. She wagged her tail and approached her with delight. "Where's its collar?" I asked. "There isn't one. Is it a boy or a girl?" "It's a girl," I said. "How do you know?" I shrugged and pointed to the dog. Anatomy, I suppose. She wasn't pleased with my response. "Come on, Delilah, let's find your home." "No," I said. "You can't just go on naming some dog you don't know. Besides, it looks more like a Sadie to me." Felicia grinned. She knew that she had me. She just tricked me into naming a dog that I don't know. Sadie it is. We loaded Sadie up into the little Toyota Scion and set off to the vet. This a result of me convincing Felicia that we had to make sure Sadie was not chipped so that she could be returned to her rightful owner. We arrived at the vet. They looked for a chip on Sadie and they could not find one. So we set out over the next couple of days to find Sadie's owners. I would get off work and we would walk this dog up and down the streets, talking to anyone we could find about this dog. "Do you know who this dog belongs to?" we would say. Shrugs, shaking heads, and blank stares is all we got. No, always no. Until one day we were about a block away from our house and we asked one of the neighbors. The neighbor eyed Sadie with suspicion. "Yeah, I know that dog. She always gets out and tears up my lawn," they said. "Great, breakthrough." Felicia and I thought. We followed the neighbor to another neighbor's house that had a ramshackle building in the backyard, which was converted into a living space. I knocked on what some would call a door, and a woman in her mid-20s answered. Sadie immediately tried to get into the house. We assumed because she recognized it, and the woman frowned at me. I already knew this was not going to be a conversation I wanted to have. "Do you know this dog?" I asked. "Yes, it's my friend's," she trailed off. "They were supposed to take care of her." Her tone implied that take care of was not feed, bathe, and walk Sadie. I frowned. "Do you want her back?" "No," she said, trying to close the door on all 3 of us. "Okay, well, then we'll take care of her," Felicia said, piping up. The tone in Felicia's voice suggested that we would feed, bathe, and walk Sadie. We walked away from that interaction with Sadie in tow. It became clear to us that Sadie's previous owners had dumped her with somebody that was supposed to find a way to dispose of her. So we adopted Sadie. We brought her into our home. She was a good fit. She loved to cuddle, as most dogs do. She loved to bark, as most dogs do, and she loved us both. However, there is one night, dear viewer, I must illuminate to you. I said that Sadie is the worst guard dog in the history of dogs, being man's best friend. Sadie had a tendency to alert us whenever somebody would come to the door. Her ears would perk up and she would stare and make a low growling bark. Standard affair for dogs, I know. However, this one night, Sadie didn't do that. Felicia and I heard what we thought was rustling on the enclosed porch just outside of the front door. Felicia looked at me. "Did you hear that?" "Yes," I said, looking at our dog, who was laying next to me without a care in the world. "Are you going to check it out?" "Why am I the one that needs to check it out?" I remarked, nudging the dog. Sadie didn't move. She rolled her eyes at me and went back to laying her head down on her front paws. Felicia huffed, and we went back to watching the television. Clearly, the rustling didn't bother Sadie, so it shouldn't bother us. A few minutes later, more rustling. There it is again. Yes, I heard it, I said, looking down at the dog again. Sadie couldn't be bothered to move or even lift up to look at the door. You really should go check it out. Fine. But if I get shot, I will haunt you and this house for the rest of our days, I quipped, lifting myself off the couch and to the door. At first glance, I couldn't see anything. The porch had a bench and some furniture, and nothing seemed amiss. Then I saw something move across the ground. So I flipped on the porch light, and there, as the light spilled onto the porch, I saw it, a pair of raccoons. One was already slowly crawling off the porch. The other one, though, was staring at me through the window. He was sat back on his haunches. His burglar mask of a face framed his beady little eyes, which stared at me. It wasn't his presence that startled me. It was the fact that he had a box of matches in one of his paws and an unlit match in the other. This little trash panda was trying to set my house on fire. I shouted at him and he dropped the match and the upended box of matches. In a flurry of fur and matchsticks, the raccoon darted off to the porch and into the cover of the night. I turned to the startled wife and a still sleeping dog. I explained to Felicia that the local raccoon tribes were revolting and hired an arsonist to assassinate us. Felicia was not pleased with my humor. Sadie still slept. For a dog that was forever alert, who always barked when someone at the door or coming into the house, she was rather lackadaisical when it came to the arsonist raccoons. We had Sadie for 3 years. In that time, she became a registered emotional support animal, and in the same way, we saved her from destruction in the same way that she saved us. More on that later. So, it's about my dog, Sadie. I love that dog, and she is the worst guard dog ever, as you can understand. But that part about her being an emotional support animal is absolutely true. So Felicia was a domestic abuse advocate and registered Sadie to be able to sense when you're in distress or stressed in one way or the other. And Sadie could sense that, and she would lean against you, right? And just having that weight of an animal. Like, anyone who owns a dog knows that, like, just having that dog touch you is just one of the best things in the world. So this is the minimal effort. Bruce, George, and today we have with us Tuna.
Hello.
I'm drinking Ballast Point Brewing Company, and it's the Sculpin India Pale Ale.
What do you think?
It's actually good. It's not as good as the other IPAs that I've drank on the show or have drank in general, but I mean, it serves its purpose.
Yeah. I'm George. Today I'm drinking Dead Guy Ale, brewed in Oregon by a brewing company called Rogue. And it's pretty good. I'd had it before.
Yeah.
And I saw it on the shelf today and thought that's what I want to drink. So that's what I'm drinking.
Yeah.
It's good. But one thing I noticed about it is that it doesn't have an ABV on it. So I really, and it doesn't have ingredients either. The only thing it has besides the actual label is a government warning. So
It's probably just ground up bones and dead bodies just in liquid form.
yeah, I mean, living up to its namesake.
Right.
Yeah.
And what are you drinking, Tuna?
I am drinking I'm not butchering this, a Glenmorangie Highland Single Malt Scotch Whiskey.
Wait, how do you pronounce that?
Glenmorangie?
Oh, Glenmorangie.
It's not
Yes.
Glenmorangie.
I don't think it's pronounced that
Probably
way. It's
not.
probably some old Gaelic. 10 year. It's got a bit of like a hint of almond and honey. Kind of grew on myself to taste it. I've got to reach the bottom finally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've kind of developed that taste for it, and so it's kind of like a smoothness to it, really
Oh, man.
mellowing
Yeah.
flow from it.
Is it like a middle shelf, high shelf, low shelf?
Oh man, I've had this for a few months. I'd probably
Can't
say,
remember the shelf.
depending on your budget. Oh, empty. I'll be happy. I'd say probably mid-shelf, working my way towards upper shelf.
Okay, yeah, I
Maybe
mean,
like
how many years?
10 year. It's
10
10 years.
Yeah,
so
that's
it's
pretty
like
good.
50, 60. Nothing depending on what you drink. Nothing really crazy.
Yeah.
Because once you get to those higher whiskeys and scotches, Scotch in particular, you can tell the difference.
Yeah.
You know, you can tell that smoothness, like the burn is different. It's not like you're in high school drinking some cheap whiskey
Right,
that
yeah.
someone got
In high
in
school,
a
nobody
plastic
does.
bottle with a twist cap. You got your
Yeah.
Oh,
you got
yeah.
your, you got
that
your
was a great
cork.
sound. Yeah. And it says here on the bottle, perfected by the 16 men of Tain. That's something I'd like to read about.
Yeah.
So as always, we're not sponsored by anyone that we're drinking from. So, yeah.
So, this is a blog post you wrote, and one of the first things that strikes me about the blog post, or the essay, or whatever you want to call it, is there's this subtle message that is not explicitly stated,
Right.
but you mention it kind of at the beginning and kind of at the end, besides the fact that she's the worst guard dog.
Right.
You say that she was a registered
Emotional support animal.
emotional support, and that's amazing to me.
Yeah.
That, so here's this dog who doesn't have a prayer, you know, like
Right.
the two last human beings that it interacted with wanted to get rid of her, destroy her, whatever, turn her into dinner, you know, maybe, who knows. You know, and so she was wandering around, and you guys happened upon her.
Yeah.
And you took her in, and even though she, as a dog, had every reason not to trust the people in general,
Right.
just
Yeah. Absolutely.
human beings,
She
you
just
know,
came into our house, and it's like putting on that shoe. You know, she fit just perfectly. She would always cuddle Felicia at the end of the night, you know, and she'd greet me at the door, and she was happy to see the both of us ever, you know, and she loved going on walks and all of this stuff, you know, and we also had cats, and she got along with the cats and the rabbit just fine, you know. It was like that missing puzzle piece that you never knew was missing, and it's there.
yeah, the dogs in general, and I don't know if this is a fair statement to make, but dogs in general seem like better empaths than most human beings.
I would agree with that.
Very true.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like you're like so sad.
Yeah.
And then
yeah.
and it's like, oh, they just come up. My dog would she would put her like head on your neck. Not like wagging her tail or anything. She's just gonna put her head on there and just sit there. Like she knew you just needed that comfort and warmth of the body.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I feel like I should be indignant or something whenever I walk up to somebody and I'm in a bad mood. They can't tell that I'm in a bad mood. I'm like, can't you just see that I need a hug right now?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's Sadie. Like, she knows when she needs to give you that doggy hug, you know? Yeah.
One thing I want to talk about is the fact that you named the dog.
Yes. So Felicia, she did absolutely tricked me into naming that dog. And
She did that on purpose?
I don't think she realized she did it on purpose, because she has a tendency to name things. Inanimate objects, animate objects, things that aren't actually things.
Yeah, I mean, I do too.
Right.
Yeah.
And so she called Sadie Delilah. I'm like, that's a dumb dog name. That's a ridiculous dog name. Like, that's not a Delilah, that's a Sadie. Clearly, you can see that. Yeah.
Oh, snap.
Yeah, and right after I just got done telling her that you can't name things because then you'll get attached, and here I am naming this dog. And I got
besides it looks
attached.
like a Sadie.
Right, yeah, it looks like a Sadie.
You know, my dad used to do the same thing. The best dog that we ever had growing up, his name was Dakota.
Yeah.
And he was the same kind of perfect fit for our family. Yeah. But every time the conversation came up about getting a dog or getting any kind of pet, one of the parents was always the protagonist and one was the antagonist.
Right.
But secretly, my dad was always the protagonist, like regardless of what he said.
Right.
You know, because he'd be like, you know, it's a lot of work, and you know, it's just another.
You gotta walk the dog. You gotta clean the yard. You gotta bathe it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then he would always be the one that, you know, falls in love with it after.
Right. Yeah. It's a labor of love, is what it is.
Yeah,
I mean,
and so we had Dakota, and he was a great dog. And I just found out today that the name Dakota means friend.
Oh, really?
Feel free to fact check me, because I heard that from somebody else. I didn't actually read about it.
And this is how information gets passed.
Right. Yeah. This is how rumors get started.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to me, though, that you named the dog, and I know that Felicia tricked you into getting attached to the dog prematurely.
Yeah.
But there had to have been some part of you that felt for the dog.
You know, I grew up with dogs. My first dog was she was a retriever type, golden retriever. She was a golden retriever named Freckles. Yeah, named Freckles.
Freckles.
Yeah, and she was amazing. And then the next dog after that was a black lab named Sammy. And then I had another dog that was a Chinese Shar-Pei and Keeshond mix named Madison. And then there was Sterling, who was a Keeshond, and Teddy, who was an Imperial Chow Chow, Imperial Red Chow Chow. And then I had a German Shepherd named Bullet. Like, yeah, I love dogs. Dogs are the greatest.
Yeah, I don't think I actually knew that about you.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm a dog guy.
Yeah, I remember a couple of the names of dogs that we had growing up, but Dakota, Sassy, Heidi, Winnie, I think.
Right.
I don't know, but what's in a name, right? That's kind of what we're talking about right now.
Ours weren't as clever, I think.
Oh,
so
really? This is my dog named Dog.
Yeah, no, not that simple.
D-A-W-G.
Like when I was as a kid, when we were born, my brother and I, or my twin and I, my parents had like a rat terrier who got extremely jealous, just tearing up the couch. So I mean, that's like a tough decision of like, I mean, you can't just say, hey, take my baby, I'm gonna keep this dog. So you have to give the dog. We had a border collie named Bobby. Clever, I know. Beautiful dog, you know. It's like a full border collie. They got it through, I think, a shelter. I lived in Dallas at the time, and some kids came and opened our fence. So Bobby bit one of the kids' hands. Unfortunately, they had to put the dog down since it was rabies in the 90s.
Oh, no.
It was in the 80s. There's not other tests that's available. So, yeah, I always upset me with trespasses, especially when I moved to a farm. It's like I was always wary of people.
Yeah.
After that, we had, I think, Max and Norman. Yeah, they were twin Beagle Terriers.
Right.
Dumb. So Norman got out and he got ran over. Unfortunately. like he loved him, but I was like, God dang it, you were not a smart dog.
You're not a smart dog.
Max Max ran out with him, stops at the road, and was like, no, go ahead, man. This is Dallas. Go ahead, you can run the road.
Oh man, you should have named them Cain and Abel.
Right.
Yeah, it's just really. But one of my favorite dogs actually was my twin's dog. His name was Dragon. He was a Boston Terrier. We named it have you seen The Secrets of Nim? The cat's name is Dragon.
Oh, yeah.
Whoa, throwback.
Whoa, yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. That was actually one of my favorite cartoons growing up.
Oh man.
Yeah.
But so
the
Dragon
rats.
was probably, and I remember looking
mice.
at Boston Terriers, best companion dog ever.
Really?
Really, yeah. The other dogs since then, they're not the same. It's like we had that dog from like as a puppy to basically when he just went deaf, just painful lily to live on.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
There's just something about that.
And that's the
like,
thing is
simple
you
names.
have these emotions for these dogs, right? Because they're companions. You know, they're literally a part of your family, and you bring them into your family and you care for them just like that. And that's just like any other companion. You know, they serve a role in your life and they serve a purpose. And just like your friends, you know, you pick your friends because they serve a purpose or they fulfill a certain need or niche in your life that you're missing, and you may not even know you're missing it until they're there. You know,
Until they're gone.
or until they're gone.
It's almost like this
Right.
empty pocket that you don't realize is there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You like, so you come back home, the dog greets you. And like
Yep.
I lived on my own and I lived on a farm, so I always had animals and stuff. But being away from them, it's like, holy crap, you know, I come home and it's like, just silence.
Yeah, and it's the same thing, like-
It's like, you know, they're not there. And
Yeah, I know exactly that. So like when my wife and I divorced, I was the one that moved out, right? And I found my own place. She kept Sadie. And like I come home to like an empty apartment, I'm just like, oh.
You
I know.
come in, you
It's
drop your
sad,
keys, and
yeah.
you're just
You
like,
walk in and hug the fridge. You're like, can we be friends?
Yeah,
what do you got for me today?
I know. Yeah.
more beer.
And actually, to clarify, you were talking about picking your friends. Picking your friends is a thing that you can do.
Right, you can't pick your family, but you absolutely can pick your friends.
Yeah. And I just want to clarify that that's not to say that you pick your friends so that you can use them or abuse them or
Right.
get what you can from them.
Right.
Because a lot of times, like in this case, it's not a planned thing. Like
Right.
you didn't even want a dog. I'm using
Right.
quotes for people who are only
That's
listening.
how it always happens. Though.
Yeah.
We don't need to. We have a dog now.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
well, it's my dog. not
But
yours.
then you got a dog, and it clearly made an impact on your
Yeah,
life. Do you want
absolutely.
to say anything else about? So at the end, I don't remember verbatim, but you said that there was mutual saving going on
Yeah.
on both sides.
Yeah. that's something I'm going to write about later.
Okay, we'll talk about it
We'll
later.
talk about it later. But yeah, so Sadie coming in and being an emotional support animal, that was a huge distressor in the family that we didn't even realize that we needed until it was there.
Yeah, and when it's gone.
And then when it's gone.
The other thing I wanted to talk about is I like to not analyze, but look at your word choice whenever you're writing, because you pick a lot of interesting ways to say things. And one of them was the raccoon arsonist, which I thought whenever I read that for the first time, just the mental image that presented of this raccoon standing there like. Yeah,
and you for those of you just listening, George absolutely just stood in the exact same way that the raccoon did. Like, it was literally like time stopped. It looked at me. I looked at him, and we were just like, "What are you doing?
What's happening here?
I'm gonna light your house on fire."
This is awkward.
This is nothing. Just
right. And that's the thing about raccoons. They've got those hands that can grab on.
Yeah,
things,
they got
right?
opposable thumbs.
It's
like
weird.
Like who chose that raccoons should have opposable thumbs?
As someone who grew up on a farm, this is the worst thing about them.
Yeah.
they can pull the latch.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah. How are we on time?
I am not keeping time.
I can grab a water and find out.
Yeah. Tuna is gonna grab a water. He's gonna check the time. We just want to make sure we don't go over. What's that?
I think the audio recorded,
Oh, really?
So we're back. This is the Minimal Effort. I'm Bruce, George, and we have Tuna with us. We had a technical snafu at the earlier segment, so if you listen in just for ears, you'll hear the whole audio, but the video will be truncated. George has a song for us.
I left for the fairy line to find the one for whom I pine, the one that I adore the most, Mary. She's a guitar. Why do leaves fall from the trees? Why do birds fly with the bees? Why, oh why do you like me? Do. Why do skies cloud up and rain and the sun comes out again? Why, oh why do you like me? And I said, Mary, Mary baby, why, oh why do you waste your time on me? Mary, oh Mary baby, why, oh why do you waste your time? Waste your time, waste your time on me. You're a bird and I'm a bee. You're a leaf and I am a tree. Come on baby, scoot a little closer and I will show you what I mean. 'Cause when your skies cloud up and rain, and when people cause you pain, know along the way that when you stumble I will be there and I will pick
Yeah, it was great.
That was crazy.
So, Mary, that's the name of that guitar?
Yeah,
That's
this
Mary?
guitar. Here, I'll put it up on the
Yeah.
camera.
And that's made by Luna, right?
It's made by Luna. Yeah.
I've seen a bunch of Luna instruments, and they always have that really nice like inlay. I've seen some like Luna, not banjos, smaller.
Ukulele?
Yep, ukuleles. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, and they're just gorgeous.
Oh my
they're
gosh.
always beautiful.
Yeah. I love this guitar. I bought this guitar. They were having a deal, and I went into this guitar shop, and I had played a song on the guitar, and I loved how it I loved how it felt. And I knew I wanted it, and I grew up playing the piano, and I kind of picked up the guitar and some other different instruments just kind of on my own, but I never had like a real guitar. So when I had enough money, I went into this guitar shop, and I was playing around on some different things. And the owner of the guitar shop was just like, "Hey, that's good. I can give you a deal." You know, the price tag was almost $1,000 or something.
Man.
Yeah.
That's the other thing about the Luna guitars I've noticed is like that ukulele was like $650.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Not for 4 strings.
Yeah. So I enjoyed the sound of the guitar. It's super mellow, and it can kind of sound nice and raw when you want it to.
Yeah, I've noticed that like your guitar versus the sound of my guitar are two completely different sounds, and yours is more like a warm feeling.
I love that about instruments. Yeah, that every, especially things like Steinway pianos, you know, they're all like handmade. And even though they follow the same formula to make every piano, like every piece of wood that goes into the piano and every string is organic and different, you know, so every piano is going to have a slightly different sound. And it's the same with guitars. I'm not a guitar aficionado. I'm a pianist by trade. But I do know that like every different guitar has a sound, and this one has seen a beating or 2 or 5, you know, not from me because I'm a gentle lover.
Right.
And she's been around and with me for a long time.
Right.
So.
Right. So why did you name the guitar Mary?
Mary was, so my sister's name was Mary, and she was, I don't know, I was there when she was born, and as we were growing up, we had a lot of siblings, right? And so we would take turns rocking the baby to sleep, right? So when it was Mary's turn, I would sing kind of a softer lullaby version of that same kind of little ditty to her. I'd be like, you know, Mary, Mary, baby.
Right.
And just rock her to sleep. And when I got the guitar, I was playing around with that kind of melody, and I kind of fleshed out the song a little bit, and I was just like, this guitar is Mary, you know, because ever since then we've had so many songs that I've written that just kind of didn't come from nowhere. It was like the sound of this specific guitar that kind of inspired things. It's almost like a muse, right? And so I thought the idea of writing a song about a guitar.
There's a little bit of irony in there.
There is a little bit, yeah. It's the song. If you were paying attention to the lyrics, it's a little melodramatic, right? It sounds like I have like a passionate love relationship with this guitar, and it's not exactly what it is. But there's so much nostalgia. You were talking about companionship, right? And this guitar and I have been through a lot, and it still looks great. The strings are kind of old; they need to be replaced right now, but I love the sound that it makes.
Right.
And it's been through the hard times with me, right? It's one of the stolid things that's been there through the good times, the bad times, and music has always been something that we could do together.
Right. You and Mary.
Mary and I.
Mary.
Yeah.
And is Mary your first guitar?
Mm-hmm.
And your only guitar?
It's my only. Well, I have an electric guitar.
What's your electric
don't tell
guitar's
Mary
name?
about it.
Yeah, don't tell Mary.
Yeah, don't. Oh, Mary. The electric guitar's name is less interesting. It's Black.
Black.
And we mentioned.
I was gonna say Paul or something.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's a black guitar.
Real creative.
Yeah, and it's fashioned after a more famous guitar, but I think it's an imitation.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It was kind of cheap. My brother bought it and then he gave it to me. So
Yeah.
but I have a propensity. We talked about this earlier in
About
the first
naming
segment.
things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have a propensity to name inanimate objects. So most of my instruments have names. My ukulele is named Lil.
Little, like L-I-L?
L-I-L.
With apostrophe?
Yeah, with apostrophe, a single apostrophe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and my car is named Winslow.
Okay.
And I'm not sure why, honestly. It's something to talk about.
Yeah.
When I was a teenager, I was looking for extra money, and this one time, these people paid me to mow their lawn, and I was like, okay, yeah, mowing lawns, that's something I can do. Manual labor, I don't have to think about it. I just have to push a thing.
Yeah.
It's great. So I get to this place, and it's a house, right, on top of a hill, and the lawn, for those of you that can't see, just goes like at a 45-degree angle downhill.
Oh.
And it's like this. So the entire lawn was just up and down, up and down.
Mm-hmm.
And the grass was at least 24 inches tall. Tall grass. And they're like, here's a lawnmower, mow the lawn. And I was like, oh, okay, we're gonna do this. And it's supposed to be a self-propelled lawnmower, which would have been really helpful, right? Except the self-propelled function
Was not performing as advertised.
it didn't work at all. So instead I just have a heavier engine
To push around.
to push around. And I got halfway through mowing this lawn, and I started talking to the lawnmower because it was hot, and it took me like 2.5 hours just to get halfway done with this lawn, which wasn't really that big. And so Lyle, the lawnmower, ran out of gas, and I put gas in him. And I did the prime thing. There's that little rubbery button.
Yep.
3 pushes.
And-
Wait a second.
And I
get it back.
tried to start the motor a couple of times, and Lyle just wasn't having it. And so I had to sit down and have a pep talk with Lyle. And I was like, listen, buddy, they're paying me like $50 to mow this lawn. And because I'm a teenager, that sounds like a lot of money. So we got to do this, buddy. Are we okay? Okay. And then he started right up. I don't think it was because of my pep talk in hindsight, but at the time it felt like, yeah, we got this.
We got this.
And then we
Yeah.
finished the lawn, and that $50 is long gone.
What did you spend your $50 on?
I don't even remember.
You didn't invest.
Yeah, I should have invested in Google.
Yeah.
You should have,
Yeah.
because then we wouldn't be doing podcasts.
Right. Yeah, so here we are.
But I love doing this, so
Support us.
yeah. So you name all your instruments, right? So I do the same thing. I have 2 guitars. I have a little parlor-style guitar, which is named Abby,
Oh.
and then the guitar that I have here, her name is June, and it's short for Juniper, and everyone thinks it's named after June Carter, and it's not. It's short for Juniper.
Yeah.
Because I like the scent of juniper. But that's something that humans tend to do is they name inanimate objects. You know, like we always name ships female names, or we always name our car or whatever, you know. Like you have Winslow, and my first car was a Hyundai Elantra, and me being as creative as I could be, I named it Elantra. But that was its name, right? So
It wasn't Elantra named Elantra.
Correct.
That'd be like
Yeah.
me being named human.
right,
Yeah.
yeah. Or dog being named Dog in Tuna's case.
Yeah.
I had a cat named Cat.
It was a cat with a K.
1 eye and 3 legs. He had a character.
But what we're talking about is companionship, and especially with guitar and music in general. You know, your guitar's been with you through a lot of the hard times that you've experienced in your life, and a lot of the good times too. And as an inanimate object, it has fulfilled a certain role in your life, right? And we do that with our friends too. You know, a friend. We might have a friend that's really understanding in certain aspects of life, and I know that I can go to them and talk about this one particular thing, and that's the role that they fulfill. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I agree. I mean, friends come in and out, pets come in and out.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of predictability to that, and that's, I think, kind of a beautiful thing, because life is not predictable, first of all, right?
No.
The relationships that we have are not predictable.
Right.
And I feel like art has the ability to reflect that.
Right. Well, all art is imitation of life and how we perceive it.
Yes.
You know, it's and it's not necessarily how like we as a group perceive it, but like how I perceive life or that event. That's what the art is.
It's literally the most subjective thing in the world.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
Beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what makes art is the fact that you created it, right? You wrote that thing no one else would have written. And they say something about there not being anything new to do, like in music. There's it's worded differently, but there's something about that.
Right.
Like you can't do anything original in music anymore because it's all been done.
Right.
Right. It all started with Bach, and then we got up to the contemporary period, and then it's all been done. So all you're doing is redoing other things. But I don't actually believe that.
Right.
Because even if that was true, I'm a firm believer in the fact that it's not what you sing, it's how you sing it.
Yes.
And I don't, like, I apply that to all facets of life, not just music.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, and it's the same with like having a conversation. It's not what you say, but how you say it. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. Our mom always used to tell us that growing up, because we being toddler children, siblings, we would get into these petty little arguments, and one phrase could like
just blow everything.
Yeah, just like blow everything out of proportion, and then everyone's feelings are hurt and everyone's upset. And Mom would explain to us after the fact, when emotions had calmed down, that it's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Right. Absolutely. You know? And that goes through everything in life. Like you in a relationship, you at an interview. You know, it doesn't matter. You know, you could be talking to your boss, you know, of a Fortune 500 company, and if you say something wrong, even though it's the right thing to say, but if you say it wrong, you know, that could make or break your career or whatever.
Right.
So,
but bringing that back to relationships and companionship, that's kind of the beauty of like human to inanimate object or human to
dog
pet interaction.
Yeah.
You know, is that interaction that you have is unique. The perspective that you bring to that relationship is unique. And that's kind of beautiful.
Right.
You know, just like art, whenever it presents itself to the world, can be beautiful.
Right.
You know. So we're at the 2.5 minute warning right now.
Okay.
Just so that we're all aware. Earlier, we had the first segment.
We didn't have a camera person giving us the time.
Right, yeah, we missed the cue. So the audio was still going. The video kind of cut out.
It's the minimal effort.
Yeah, it's the minimal effort. I mean, the message will get across.
Right.
Final thoughts, though. We got, 2 minutes.
What do you got, Tuna?
I had some more questions and thoughts.
More questions and thoughts?
Yeah,
Well, what if we could save them for the
big
third
one.
segment?
Yeah, I'll save for the third segment.
Okay. Okay.
I guess I'm a different perspective on that, and I can discuss that in that third segment. Like,
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, that'll be good. I mean,
it's making me think more right now. I'm like,
yeah. That's fine. So we're going to take a smoke break.
And then we'll be back.
All right.
And we're back. This is Minimal Effort. I'm Bruce. This is George, and we have our special guest Tuna. And then for the third segment, we always turn it to our special guest. And Tuna, you had some thoughts about what we were talking about with companionship and inanimate objects and naming things.
I did. Okay, so the biggest one. You said you name inanimate objects. Like, do you just have that name right there, just ready to go, or is it a?
A lot of times, yeah. A lot of times it's. So my car, I could tell that it needed a name like Winslow, and not a name like Cynthia.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you just have to look at the characteristics and kind of determine. It's not an exact science.
Yeah,
That's the answer.
I'm the same way too, because I'd mentioned that my two guitars, Abby and Juniper. You know, I just like those names. I've named other things too that I can't recall. I think my coffee pot was called Mr. Coffee, but it wasn't even a Mr. Coffee brand.
I think it also says it on the front of the
No, this wasn't a Mr. Coffee brand.
Oh,
but
it
was
wasn't.
like,
Okay.
it's Mr. Coffee. Good morning. How are you?
Made its own sticker.
Yeah.
Well, so my very first guitar was a Alvarez acoustic, and I loved it. You know, it was my very first guitar my parents got for me, and I was learning guitar. I was excited, beautiful sound. I remember the smell of the wood every time I'd open the case.
Oh, wow.
Like, it's very vivid. Unfortunately, I was getting lessons at a church, and
Getting
lessons, yes.
Getting lessons,
yes. And don't judge me, I was doing puppets too, like we do puppets for the shows.
Okay.
And so I left it in the puppet room. And when we went,
Wait, your church had a whole room for puppets?
yeah, we got them to somehow put money towards that. That's a whole ball field on its own.
Something to talk about.
Something to talk about. Yeah.
That's back when I went to church. That's a different whole thing. But I came back and it's gone. My guitar case is gone. You know, it's like leather case. Like, it's a beautiful, like, it's very distinct. I knew it. I knew the smell, everything. And it's gone.
So
And-
all of these like valuable, lifelike puppets laying around, and they chose to.
Exactly, $100 like per puppet, and they chose. I heard my parents, you know, on the guitar. Never got reimbursed anything, so I went from that, and nothing against Takamine, but like went to Jasmine guitar, which is just wasn't the same. It was never the same. Like it was like, you know, so you name something and you think of it like I have a connection. I was probably getting close to where I would name the guitar.
Oh,
I was
no.
looking into, you know, more blues and stuff with B.B. King and how he named his, and I'm like, probably getting close. I felt like I titled this guitar, you know, and get its name. This would be the one I'd play for a long time, and I never got the chance.
Were you
It
gonna
was almost like
propose?
it just got it just out of my hands. Never found it, and it's something that bothers me to this day. It's just like so, I feel like it probably affected me on the idea of getting having an object, naming it.
Like, don't name an inanimate object
Because for me, it's
you
like,
never know when it's
exactly.
gonna bail on you.
My last car was like the tuna mobile or the tuna fish. Like, yeah, like it wasn't clever. It wasn't clever. It was just like, well, this is the name I have. You drive me around your mobile, the tuna mobile. Boom.
Yeah.
It's like a
Wow.
crappy superhero.
You know, in-
with a terrible backstory.
In some universes, I think they call that slavery. I'm just kidding.
I treated it well. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
I got
that's
it.
good.
You know, I took care of it.
That's good.
But
so
yeah, no,
you
it's-
have an aversion to naming things.
Yeah, and I think that kind of really stemmed from, and that was over a decade ago when, even for pets, like I never had my pet. My twin brother, he was the one who named Dragon, our Boston Terrier. We had the cats, but the cats aren't really your pets. They own you. And it's you know the weird situation.
That's a
where,
whole nother story.
They're
That's
they're
true.
just furry roommates.
Yeah.
And then the one time I wanted to get a dog, you know, I didn't name it. In fact, I came home because I told her I wanted a dog, and my mom got a dog, and then it was mine when we had to walk it, feed it, but all the other chances. So like, I never had that experience of actually owning until I think recently I got a cat.
Okay.
His name's Catbug.
You got a cat.
I got my stuff specifically. I was on
So
my
you got
own,
yourself a
with
furry roommate.
a furry roommate. He was a little turd, I won't lie. Living on a farm where all the other animals is like either come into your porch and crap on your porch, and then make noises at you and walk off, and they're like terrible like neighbors. And I named them. And, you know, I was more prone to naming things I didn't like than I liked. I know.
Oh boy.
Yeah, that's like I remember.
What does your therapist think of this?
Man, apparently I'm fine.
Apparently.
He says I'm fine, but he probably doesn't want to break the truth to me.
Yeah.
But like I think, and I realized like I'm probably more prone to naming things I didn't like to characterize it than I
Right.
was to things I did like.
And that, I point that out in my writing because I tell Felicia, like, no, you can't name this dog, because the moment you name something, you own it, right?
Yeah.
That like you owe it a good life or whatever, because you've given it a life, you've given it a personality.
You've given it enough attention to attribute value.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I was like, Felicia, stop naming these things. Stop bringing these things home and naming them.
But also, it looks like a Sadie.
Yeah.
It was a hard scene.
Yeah.
And maybe because also like I grew up on a farm, the not value of animals, like it's a weird situation where you love an animal and you understand it, like this is your purpose and you thank it for its purpose, that I'm going to eat you.
Right.
But not in a cruel way. So I remember we got pigs, and my dad was given a pig as a piglet as a gift, almost as a prank. We named it Maple.
Like
And then
maple bacon.
Like maple bacon.
Yeah.
And then we got another pig, and we kind of like almost held a raffle for it, and its name was Hamlet. Pun definitely intended, right?
Oh man.
They never, yeah, no. So we were like, the same. Some were the chickens, and the chickens were harder because you'd identify them, or they'd get picked up by a fox.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So my
that's-
family raises animals
Yeah.
too, and it's kind of the same way. Like the chickens, the turkeys, the ducks, the cows, the pigs,
Yeah.
like all of them get names just because. Let's be honest, you're waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning to give them food or
Yes.
to get
you're taking
or
care of
from
them.
I got stuff to do. It's like I'm gonna water you. I let you out of the pen, and I'm
Yeah,
like going to all. the
we
different
have a
pens.
relationship, but in the end of this relationship,
I'm eating you.
Yeah, I win.
Just so you know how this goes,
It's like
I'm
you-
going to eat you.
it's like-
apologize.
For the
Apologies.
vegans.
Yeah. The vegetarians, vegans, like
Yeah. I mean,
But you know what?
It's really true about the happy animals
Bacon
like
tastes
that.
amazing. Prove me wrong.
yeah. We're not trying to take sides in either way, but and it's just in our
it's
experiences
how I
growing up.
Yeah, it's how I grew up. It's kind of thing. It's like the chickens had eggs, and it's like, look, that stuff costs money to feed that many animals.
Yeah.
And now we got goats. And God, it's hard to name them because sometimes they have twins, and you're like, all right, which one are you?
Just name them like you name your Twix, left and right.
Thing one
This is
and
left
thing
goat.
two.
This is right goat.
Man, it was like my brother started like get weird, like an Irish name of like Boudica, but then one was named like Pete. It's just, so you're jumping on it like the animal. There were just so many of them. I remember my brother. We ordered ducks. And it's like, I don't know, the whole idea of naming things, the object permanence of just naming them and giving it its own identity, it's always been something I've had a hard time connecting with. Now, but when I do, I definitely connect with, like my cat bug. He's a real turd, but he's my turd. I love him.
Yeah.
If I didn't wake up to feed him in time, he's making noise and he's just hitting walls. I don't know why. He's not the smart cat either. He jumped out of a tree, hurt his paw. Like he climbed up the tree himself, jumped out. He's like, I gotta make it down.
Oh my gosh.
I got that bill the other day in the mail.
He's like, I'll land on my feet, and clearly my feet are indestructible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's a teenage cat, He's
Yeah.
like, I'm indestructible, but
I remember when I was a teenager.
I was gonna say, I remember feeling like that as a teenager.
Yeah.
So
And a young adult.
and a young adult. Growing up, I fell off a 2.5-story building. I got hit by a car. I got trapped under a log in a river, and I fell out of a tree and landed on my head.
So George, what you're telling me right now is you shouldn't be sitting here in front of me.
No, I really shouldn't. I mean, by all accounts, none of it makes sense. I'm like Kronk in The Emperor's New Groove right now. I'm like, I just don't get it.
So really what this podcast is just a fever dream for me, and none of you actually exist.
Right. One of
Cheers.
us one of us doesn't exist, or all of us don't exist. One of those things is either true or not true, and I just canceled out every statement I just made.
I mean, I think as I've gotten older, and maybe a big part of my partner, when she helped me, is connecting more. I was probably getting more distant till I met her, and then
So you-
I would probably right now I would probably be more prone to name things.
Right now.
You got-
versus earlier in life.
Yeah, like a
when-
decade ago, and then
And this
I
is
was,
your life partner now.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you felt like naming things bred a relationship that you might lose, and so you didn't want to name things.
Exactly. Like, yeah. So for me, the idea, almost a Buddhist belief that material possessions, all this is just suffering in a sense. It's like, so, just material possessions as a whole. It's like they're lossable. Like I can lose them and I'm fine.
It sounds like
And-
you were running headlong away
Yeah.
from loving things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I guess
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
would.
No, no, I
would
get
be
that,
right. Yeah,
absolutely.
no, I can't deny that. It's always helps with the outside perspective, but yeah, no, I always had that's honestly my hardest thing. It's like, hey, we should name this. I'm like, oh, that's a terrible idea. Don't ask me.
Names? What are names? What's
What-
a name?
what
What's
is it?
in a name?
What is in a name?
Who am I?
Exactly.
So about the running from loving things, it's like you give something a name and then you're afraid that like, okay, I put emotional stock into this.
Exactly. Like
Right?
when you said you own it, you're owning that love
Yeah,
of it.
yeah, and things perish. It happens. People die.
Right.
Or they change their mind in a relationship and they leave, or you just don't work out or whatever. And all that emotional stock you put into it is now it's pain, and humans don't really want to feel pain.
I mean,
it's an umbrella statement, but
Suffering is in life
naturally,
in that
right?
sense.
Exactly.
Yeah,
you don't want to
suffering
suffer.
happens.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it happens as a part of life. But if you can do something to mitigate that suffering by not naming something and not being emotionally attached to it, then it's a defense mechanism. Absolutely.
yeah.
That's my weakest point. Has always like been naming things. It came to the point of what would I call this? I don't have kids at this moment, and it'd be like the hardest thing besides break. I don't do the hard part when I have a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's
But
really true.
It's like, this is you for life, and I have to. I was like, we're gonna put a couple syllables together.
Right.
String some letters together that make
Oh,
sounds.
man, words.
That's how
sounds.
I'll refer to you for the rest of your life. Yeah.
Sounds. Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to like.
You give it the identity,
Even with-
but not like you're not making the identity. You're just giving it like, this is gonna be you from now on. Like you are this Harry or this Truman or this John, whatever name.
All these presidential names.
Yeah, just-
You're one of these.
Winslow.
I was at the bank earlier. I apologize.
He's like Jackson, George, Lincoln.
And they're like, "Can you stop throwing that money, please? And give it back?"
Please stop pouring the pennies on the counter, sir.
my goodness.
Hey, how are we doing on time? Anybody?
Oh, that's our 1 minute warning. So we don't get the luxury of a 2 minute warning.
Oh, yeah,
We're
we
at
don't
1 minute.
even. So I'm sorry we couldn't get to your questions that you had.
No, I that was like more of an open experience for me. I think
Right.
I really was the biggest thing was naming. That was
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
answered
again,
that
this
for
is
me.
the minimal effort. I'm Bruce. This is George. We had Tuna on today, and our topic today was companionship, animate and inanimate objects.
Make sure that you check down below, click our links, subscribe. Unless you hate us, then
Then don't.
yeah.
no, dude. I want get feedback.
Yeah. Also, share this with 50 of your closest friends.
I think that's it.
Yeah. Be well.
All right. See ya.
Cheers.
I'm not saying by nature.